Is Science Week. Yes, it's from the 8th to the 15th of November. And to celebrate, because we love science, we only went and got a real-life rocket scientist. Dr. David McKeown, welcome to Swipe TV.
Thanks very much for having me.
No, thank you for coming in, David. So, Science Week is next week. What does that mean? What's going to be happening? Can you just tell us a little bit about it?
So it's an annual event, and it's a festival kind of celebrating science, technology, engineering, maths. It's going to be workshops, talks, all those kind of things going on, getting people curious and kind of really interested in science.
And David, like I said very excitedly before, you are a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Now, what does that actually mean?
Well, rocket science people who build rockets, so the guys who kind of manufacture these big machines that have lots of power, which put things into space. So things like robots that go to Mars, and then people that were sent to the moon.
The moon. The moon. The moon. We are obsessed with the moon. The moon is endless fascination for us Earthlings. So if I, say, for example, wanted to go to the moon, how long would it take me to get there?
Depends what you're going in. If you were going in a rocket, like the American astronauts that went in the 60s, that would take you about 3 or 4 days to get there, 3 or 4 days to get back.
Okay.
That's going very, very fast. Now, if you were in a car going 100 kilometers per hour, you could still get there if you go through space. It'd take you about 6 months to get there. So it's far away, but it's not impossibly far away.
6 months there and then 6 months
6
back
months
as well.
back, yeah.
So
You want to bring some snacks.
it's a big commitment, yeah. And how big is the moon? How big is it?
So, well, compared to the Earth, it's about a quarter the size of the Earth. And it's about 400 times smaller than the Sun, right? But it's also 400 times closer to us than the Sun is. So if it moves in front of the Sun, it can block out the whole Sun.
Okay.
So it's big. It's the 5th biggest moon in the solar system.
Okay, and it's beautiful, of course. But what does it actually do?
What does it do?
Yeah,
It doesn't really have a job, but it goes around the Earth. It rotates around the Earth, and then we rotate around the Sun, so it's going around the Sun as well. But it has some things. It affects our tides and stuff like that. It has a lot of kind of things, but it doesn't have any particular job. It's just a rock kind of out there.
Yeah.
Can you actually elaborate on that? What does it do to the tides? Why does it have any
Yeah,
effect?
so we have tides because of the moon. So the moon is pulling on the Earth, and the Earth is pulling on the moon. It's gravity. We're both kind of pulling at each other. And what the moon can do is actually, it doesn't really move the Earth much, but it can get the water, and it pushes it one side. So we get high tides when it's kind of pushing it one way. You get a bump, and low tides when that water is moved away. So as the moon goes around, we get different tides at different times of the year.
Okay, cool. And I know, well, I'm not sure about this, but it seems to influence wolves as well. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, there's this whole thing of wolves howling at the moon,
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
of pointing their mouths to the moon. So it's not real. So what happens is that wolves are nocturnal. They go out at night time. So the moon is there at the same time. And then also the wolves, they don't howl at the moon. They're not angry at the moon. They're trying to put their mouths up a bit higher so that their voices go louder, so other wolves in the area can hear it. So they're not shouting at the moon. They're only just shouting to their friends.
That makes sense. Now, you've obviously studied the moon quite a lot. We're going to keep asking you about it. What would it be like to live on the moon?
Yeah, it'd be a bit odd. You need your beach wear, and you'd also need the winter coat. So the days are much longer. So it takes the moon 29 days to rotate around its axis. So it's nearly 2 weeks of day, followed by 2 weeks of night. And when it's daytime, it's over 100 degrees. So you'll be boiling,
Okay.
right? So that's why they wear those spacesuits when they're on the moon, if you've seen the pictures. But at nighttime, there's no sun at all, and it's minus 150 degrees, so you'd freeze instantly.
Wow.
So like that, there's no atmosphere, so there'd be no air, so you need your spacesuit as well. And then you can jump really high. Gravity is 1/6 the size scale on the moon, so you could jump 1/6 higher. So you could play some basketball and do some pretty good dunks.
So some pretty extreme conditions, but a lot of fun. You know, that zero gravity stuff, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And speaking of living on the moon, how many people have actually ever even been on the moon?
So we've only sent 12 people to the moon. 12 people have walked on the moon, all Americans. And we started in 1969, that was the first one, and then we only went to 1972, and that was the last person. And we haven't sent anybody to the moon in the last 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And surely it's really difficult to just get there in the first place. You have to break through the atmosphere and, I don't know, whatever else.
You need a lot to do. You build a rocket, yeah. So you need a very, very powerful rocket. So we had them in the 60s, and they bring you all the way up there. Then you need to get a little lander so you can land on the moon. Then you get off. When you're on it, the later missions had buggies so they could kind of go around the moon, get back into the rocket, go back up, and then get back to Earth. So there's a lot to do,
steps,
and
yeah.
it costs lots of money, and that's why we don't really go back as much anymore.
Okay, so like you're saying, you don't really go back anymore. Is there any other reasons why you don't really go back, or?
Well, we just kind of changed our focus. So at the time in the 1960s, when people were going to the moon, this was an amazing thing. People were going to that object we had seen in the sky, and all of a sudden, this is amazing. But after they went back a couple of times, 6, 7 times, and then the kind of people weren't so interested. So we started building other things. We built this International Space Station
course,
that
yeah.
goes around. So there's 6 astronauts up there at the moment, just orbiting Earth all the time, lived up there for 6 months. We sent stuff to Mars, robots. We sent probes to all the planets around the universe, or around the universe, around the solar system. So we've kind of spent the money that we spent going to the moon doing different projects.
Okay, that makes sense.
So what is next for the moon or space, or what are the projects that are coming
Yeah,
up?
so people are talking about, well, Mars is the big thing. People want to go to Mars.
Yeah.
So
Right, yeah.
the moon
We're there.
is a moon, it's a satellite, but Mars is a real planet. It's much further away. So say it took 3 days to get to the moon. In a rocket, it take eight months to get to Mars. So it's much further and much more
In a
problems.
rocket, it would take
In a
8 months?
rocket, 8
Whoa, I
months.
didn't
And
know
8
that.
months back.
So, David, do you think that in our lifetime there will be like commercial flights to the moon? Like you'd get on a flight to New York? Do you think that'll happen soon?
I think it will. So there's a whole thing about space tourism and getting normal people up into space. So we're doing so next few years definitely people going up and orbiting Earth, and then after that it'll be trips to the moon. So there's one company at least thinking about it now that you'll go and around the moon and back to Earth. And they're charging something like 100 million euro.
I was going to say, is it when will it get like to a stage where normal people will be able to?
Yeah, so
afford it?
the price will come down,
Yeah.
but I don't know how long that's going to take. But
Oh, me holidays.
hopefully in our lifetimes, yeah, go there, spend a bit of time on the moon, come back. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in, David. And guys, remember, Science Week is next week, so you can get onto loads of stuff all around the country. Just check out www.scienceweek.ie for more information.
Now, all this space talk's getting me homesick. I think we should bring it back down to Earth.
Yes, back down to cold, wintry Ireland. It feels like the coldest place in the world at the moment.
Not the coldest place in the world. I know some are colder.
Yeah?
My fridge.
Thanks very much, Simon. Let's